Hey everybody, good morning. It's the great ship, the Space Show. Red alert, we're talking about more Star Trek. We are in the throes of season 3. I am your host, Lieutenant Rebecca Frost, joined by two noted Space Show fans, Kerry Jackson and Leigh George Kade. Hello, you guys.
Hi, Rebecca. In the throes is a nice way of putting it, I think.
Oh, we do audio on this one too, so I'll say hi instead of just waving furiously at the camera.
So. This week we're talking about just 5, I think, fantastic episodes.
You liked all these, okay?
For the most part, Spectre of the Gun, Day of the Dove, For the World is Hollow and I Have Touched the Sky, the Tholian Web, and Plato's Stepchildren. If we are just going to dive right into this first episode, Spectre of the Gun.
This is the one I thought you would hate.
The Roddenberry Junior High School Community Theater production of Spectre of the Gun.
Listen, my household, big Tombstone household. We love Tombstone in this household. Oh, yeah. I paused. As soon as this episode started, I paused and I went to get my husband. And I'm like, you got to watch this episode because we Tombstone fanatics over here.
Well, there you go.
Did you know my aunt went to this earlier this summer? There's a Red Dead Redemption Con in Tombstone, Arizona.
Well, that's
really
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's a game I have played. I could attend that convention and not feel stupid.
Yeah, Red Dead Redemption Con. It's in Tombstone, Arizona, and my aunt went with her stepson and husband and had a blast.
Amazing.
As punishment for ignoring their warning and trespassing on their planet, the Melkot condemn Captain Kirk and his landing party to the losing side of a surreal recreation of the 1881 historic gunfight at the OK Corral. Loved it. Wow. Loved it.
You did, really?
Yes, it was so stupid.
You surprise me constantly. I was just convinced that you were going to hate this episode.
When I was a little kid, I thought it was the coolest episode of Star Trek, like bar none. And then I think I saw it in my late teens and I hated it. And then I think I saw it again a couple years ago and I was like, this is kind of like really surreal community theater.
Loved the set. No full buildings, just the facades of buildings against a red backdrop. Absolutely incredible. The villain, or not the villain, but the Melkots are... let me see if I can present this image, because this was the first thing I thought of. Hold on, selecting a tab to share. I thought it looked like this character from SpongeBob SquarePants, the shriveled up guy in the wheelchair.
At least it wasn't Clint Howard.
At least it wasn't this time.
Yeah,
I thought it looked like a disembodied brain with eyes, so it looked like, what was that old black and white movie that had it was the screaming brain or something like that, where the brain was floating through.
The brain that wouldn't die.
The brain that wouldn't die. That's what it looked like to me.
What's that from?
Oh, it's like a 50s sci-fi movie.
Yeah, black and white.
Yeah, or the screaming. Yeah, I can't remember. Oh, I can't remember now. But they made fun of it in Iron Giant.
They did, but it was just a floating brain with like googly eyes.
Yeah. This is the season
they did that on Space Ghost too.
Yeah, this is the season that they tried to do non-human aliens.
So many non-human aliens.
Yeah, like they were like, oh, we don't want our legacy to be like some guy with a bunch of putty on his face, like the 80s shows.
But even though they explained all the humanoid aliens in the Kirok episode, they explained why there are so many humanoid aliens on all these planets.
And they went back to that in DS9 and Next Gen.
Yes, they did.
Speaking of the set, which is the immediate standout, the bit of trivia I have for this episode, the original script called for filming on an outdoor location, but due to budget constraints, filming took place in the studio. These constraints also prevented the set designers from building a complete Western town, and the concept of pieces of a town drawn from Kirk's mind was developed. Fantastic. What a concept. When Kirk is describing why they are in 1880, October 26th, 1881 in Tombstone, Arizona, because Kirk's ancestors were part of the frontiersmen that helped settle the West.
Of course they were.
Well, and it also makes sense that his even having some historical knowledge of that period of time, it makes sense that his memory would have holes in it or missing pieces to it. And I think they
Sure.
did that really, really well in this episode because, like, I know quite a bit about certain elements of history too, but it's not like doctorate
we're
level
not.
stuff. It's
Yeah, we're not
passive
knowing the
knowledge.
details.
Yeah, it's I read a book about it. It's not like detailed historical knowledge. I think they did an amazing job. If they indeed had to cut corners because of budget, that set designer was hands down one of the best in the industry because they sure didn't make it look like they couldn't finish the budget.
Well, and my favorite part of the set was the sheriff's sign was in the Star Trek font.
Or the clock just hanging in the middle of a window.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it's just really good stuff. Really very surreal, very PBS Playhouse.
Like
Yes.
if we were to do a stage recreation of an episode, it should be this one.
Yeah.
And you could too.
Yep.
Yeah, because I got my husband to watch this one with me because, again, big Tombstone fans over here. I had the opportunity to explain to him that Chekhov is a very close second for horniest member on the USS Enterprise, and that comes up again later, and not a good way.
No. Yeah, this episode could be called Pavel Horny because it's just like, oh, stop hitting on the saloon girl, Pavel. We've got work to do. No, Pavel Horny.
She came up to me.
She was hitting on him. See,
And then
it's always you have to maintain good relationships with the natives.
Yeah. And you have to wonder, did the Melkotians make him behave that way, or was he just...
That was all Chekhov, man.
That's Chekhov. Chekhov is horny all the time. I think it's just like an underlying thing that he has to suppress when he's like at work, you know? And I really liked that the resolution to this episode is the opposite of you just have to believe.
you just don't have to believe. I love
It's
that.
also another case of Kirk deciding prime directive or not. Well, let's go see what's going on down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously, because they were like, "Hey, don't," and Kirk's
No.
like, "I want to do it anyway."
You should do it. Yeah. First
It's like-
contact. I want to get that. Yeah.
It's like when we review horror movies, and Rebecca's always like, imagine if they didn't do this part, and the movie would be over 5 minutes in.
That's right.
And where's the fun in that?
Oh, spooky guy standing next to tall grass? Don't pull over.
No. Just,
Yeah.
That happens all the time.
Yeah.
Carrie, have you watched In the Tall Grass?
Not yet. No, I will. Though.
Oh, please get high and watch it.
I'll write it down. All right.
Moving on to.
Oh,
or
are we
unless you
moving
had
on?
more. Unless you had more to say about Spectre.
I just thought this was, everybody gets a moment, everybody gets an interaction. I love the lightning that they, of course it's a stage light and it casts the shadow of the trees up onto the red sky a lot.
Yeah.
It's so community theater.
And also, when they're at the saloon and the bartender comes up and is like, "Can I get you the usual?" And Scotty says, "Yep, I'll take a half a gallon of scotch." And the bartender is like, "We don't have scotch. You'll take bourbon or corn whiskey." But the fact that he orders half a gallon of scotch.
But that's our Scotty. He's using his
That's our
superpower.
Scotty.
And he uses his superpower in this to a great effect because they build a gas grenade. And they said, well, somebody's got to test it. And Scotty's like, all right, I'll test it. And this is, and he takes a shot of the whiskey. He goes, oh, but this is painless. And he goes, well, okay, you should have warned me, Mr. Spock. But he sticks his head in and the smoke is just billowing up into his face. And it's clear he's breathing that dangerous crap in and breathing it out because it was the 60s and safety was not a problem.
Yeah, what are they using? Like asbestos gas? Is that a thing?
Probably. It can't be good for you,
He wasn't well known for his love of safety either.
That's true.
As an actor, I mean, when he was in the Canadian Air Force, there are legends of him getting cited for slaloming his plane between telephone poles. The man was a legend when
What
it
a
came
hero.
to disregard for personal safety.
Doing was the man.
Yeah.
Is he still alive? Is he
Nope.
still around?
He's in space.
Oh.
He's orbiting. Literally, his ashes were.
They sent him up.
They sent him up. Yeah, they
Yeah,
shot him into
yeah.
space. Yeah,
Yeah, I think he was the first Star Trek to go up into space.
I think he was. Yes.
Yeah.
I love that for him.
The bullets are not
Yeah.
real. And also, what was cool was all of these. You had this, cast of people who have been in tons of westerns. And that bartender's a perfect example. He was just, he's like, "Oh, you want me to be a western bartender? Okay, I'm here."
Yeah, I think it was like the second time DeForest Kelley had been involved in something involving the shootout at the OK Corral.
Yes, DeForest Kelley has done a lot of Western historical recreation stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why the studio didn't want him playing in the spaceship show, because he was
he's
too
a
well known as a Western guy.
Western actor. Yep.
I have a hard time envisioning him as a Western actor. Maybe if I saw.
Yeah. I would just say to the bad guy cowboys in this episode, moisturizing, very important. Just that's all.
How did
Go
you
back
I would
and
say
watch
that
it.
to that whole generation.
Probably moisturizing. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Brought to us by Dove, the Day of the Dove. Both
Oh.
humans and Klingons have been lured to our planet by a formless entity that feeds on hatred and has set about to fashion them into a permanent food supply for itself. Guys, this episode made me cry.
This episode
Did it?
wrecked you. I was watching your commentary as you were watching it, and I was like, "Oh, I know which one she's watching."
Because the villain is a ball of light that is the type of person that says I hate drama and then goes ahead and causes just a lot of drama. And and this is jumping like way so far into the episode, but there's a moment where Scotty is so mean to Spock. I'm literally shouting at my TV, "Scotty, what are you doing? Stop! You're being so mean."
You freak! You're a freak!
Literally, he's like, he's going to it because everyone has swords now. And so, Scotty's going to attack Spock, and Spock is like, "Easy, Mr. Scott." And Scott says, "Keep your Vulcan hands off me. Just keep away. Your feelings might get hurt, you green-blooded half-breed." And I'm like, "Scotty, no." And then Spock says, "May I say that I have not thoroughly enjoyed serving with humans? I find their illogic and foolish emotions a constant irritant." And Scotty says, "Then transfer out, freak." And I'm like,
And Spock, for a minute there, he was gonna take Scotty apart. For a second there, he nearly did, and then he went, "Oh wait, I'm being manipulated."
But this is the episode that got me some Klingon action figures that came with swords,
Yes.
Oh, really?
which made me really happy. Yeah.
Carrie, do you have the lady Klingon?
I don't. We never got one as an action figure.
Dang.
We never
Not
got Kang's
surprising.
wife. Yeah.
Oh, this was Kang's episode. I forgot about
Kang, yes. Michael Ansara.
He's delicious. And Rebecca, did you get to the episodes? Oh, you haven't watched Deep Space Nine yet, have you?
Oh no. No, I
all of
told
these
her.
Klingons come back in DS9.
These particular Klingons?
Well,
No,
Kang,
yeah, and Koloth,
Kang,
and
Koloth, and Kodos.
yeah,
The Simpsons aliens?
Yes.
yes, but they're dressed like Klingons.
Oh, you get Kang from this one. You get the one from Tribbles, the Tribbles episode, who
The
is
one that just looks like a dude.
who is Kodos or Koloth or anyway, and then the one from Tyree's woman, the Flintlocks. No, that's a different one.
Well,
Anyway, don't worry about
it's still it's definitely amazing, and I can't wait until you get to DS9 so that you can explore this episode.
I'm excited to get to DS9. I just caught up on Lower Decks too, and like their whole DS. Which is so funny. My husband knew everything about the DS9 episode. I'm like, "Did you ever watch Deep Space Nine?" And he's like, "No." He just happens to like know a lot about it.
Deep Space Nine is just the best. Oh, I love it so much. I remember
I
we
really
when
love
it
original series.
when it came on, and we were loving it. I remember, Lee, and so many Star Trek fans were like, "How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you?"
Yep. Yep.
And we're like, "No, you guys just don't see how great this show is and how
And then
great it's
around-
going to be."
Around season 5, the general fan populace started clicking with it, and I was like, "Told you,
Yep.
I told you."
Yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing. So
Why did they not like it?
Because, well, it wasn't on a spaceship, first of all.
it was slow paced,
sure.
and they didn't like the serial storytelling. They didn't like the fact that each episode was part of a larger story. And I think I think there might have been some racism playing into it a bit.
Probably.
And I also think that there were I don't know. I mean, I get it. First season Bashir is really annoying, but by the third
Yes.
season Bashir is amazing. Dax is a great character. There's
Oh,
so
yeah.
many cool characters, but we're not talking about Deep Space
No,
Nine.
let's get back to Day of the Dove.
Yeah, speaking of racism, a lot of blackface in this episode.
Well, that's,
Like
that's your Klingons, yeah.
Yeah. I like that we did get one lady Klingon, Mara, the only female Klingon with a speaking role in the original series.
Oh, that's right.
And coming back to the notion that Chekhov is the second horniest crew member of the USS Enterprise.
Oh, yeah.
The note I have, and we'll talk about this scene, is Chekhov going to rape this Klingon?
Well, he did tear her top, and
aggressively kissed. Is okay. So Chekhov, he's got this idea. This hatred light bubble has given him this idea that he needs to get revenge on the Klingons because they killed his brother, even though he's an only child. And he corners the hot Klingon lady, and he's like, "You don't die yet. You are not human, but you are beautiful." And then proceeds to aggressively kiss her and rip her top. And I'm like, Chekhov, you cannot rape this lady. What is happening?
It's tough to watch, but you have to keep reminding yourself that the alien is making them angry, and But what does this say about Chekhov though? Because what the alien does,
it's all got to come from somewhere. Is Chekhov capable of this elsewhere? Does Scotty really think these things about Spock? Why is everyone turning on each other?
But see, that's the question. See, we give you the Chekhov thing, but then we also, they killed my brother. Well, he never had a brother. So the question is how much are they being manipulated?
He did have a brother.
Chekhov?
They've gone into it. They've retconned this bit.
They did?
And yeah, he did have a brother, and it's been covered up because his brother died mysteriously. And so it's that little bit has been played out, even to the point where there's some belief that the older brother is actually the Chekhov that's being used in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek movies, because Pavel Chekhov would have been too young to be a helmsman on that Enterprise. He would have been 10. So an older brother would track.
Oh, I see. Well, because Pavel in the JJ verse is, because they ask him, "How old are you?" and he says he's 15 or something like that.
Yeah, he's young, but this Chekhov, I mean, we're talking that's 13, 14 years before original series timeline. He would have been 8 or 9 or 10. So
that's how they get away with older brother Chekhov. Okay,
to some degree, it's real hand waving him, but
I'll say, yeah. All right. Anyway, but this was a great episode because you all those stunt guys got to be sword fighting, and I'm sure they had fun, and it was they clearly didn't rehearse, It was just them banging their swords against each other's swords,
I was very happy for Sulu. The man loves a sword.
Oh yeah, he was in his element, wasn't he?
Oh yeah. Another fun piece of trivia from this episode. Near the end of the episode, Scotty tells Kirk that the ship's dilithium crystals are deteriorating. Kirk asks time factor. Scotty replies, "In 12 minutes, we'll be totally without engine power." And this happens with exactly 12 minutes left in the episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I double checked it because there's another moment too where they check in again and Spock says 9 minutes, 30 seconds or something like that. And I checked the time and it was accurate. They had about 9 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. That's
nerds back in the 60s. Yeah.
That's real Taylor Swift stuff. I tell you what, Taylor Swift does that.
But it was Michael and Sarah with the great line, "We don't need any help to hate humans." Go.
Delicious. And really hits differently growing up in the Cold War, because this is such a Cold War episode.
Very much so.
Oh, our unspoken hatred will be the end of all of us.
And Michael and Sarah, I found out this week because I was preparing trivia questions for another subject for my radio show. I found out Michael and Sarah was married to Name check Leigh George Kade, Barbara Eden,
Oh, from
Jeannie
yeah.
from I Dream of Jeannie. They were married. I didn't know that.
Wow.
Oh.
60s power couple.
I'll say.
Well, moving on to happier, not happier. For the world is hollow and I have touched the sky. Loving the naming conventions of these episodes. This is how I named my papers in high school. Like, this is how I would title them. The Enterprise discovers an apparent asteroid that is on a collision course with a planet that is actually an ancient populated generation ship.
So they're real worried about asteroids this season.
Yes,
Yeah, seems to be a theme.
This episode opens with the knowledge that, you know, McCoy has just done a physical on everybody on the ship and he has a disease and only has a year to live.
Oh, by the way, Jim, I'm dying.
And I was reacting like Nurse Chapel, like, are you serious? We have to do something. And he's like, ma'am. And
Your feminine hysteria is showing through.
And I'm just like, McCoy, first of all, Scotty was so mean and now McCoy is dying. What is happening to my friends?
Messing with Rebecca's head this season, I see.
And, you know, they go to beam onto the asteroid and Kirk and Spock are going to go and McCoy is ready to go on the ship too. He's ready to go too. And they're like, McCoy. And McCoy's like, you can't tell me no, I'm dying. And Kirk's like, okay.
If you're dying, all right.
If you insist. So the disease that McCoy is suffering from is xenopolycythemia. Polycythemia is a real disease in which the body produces too many red blood cells and is not by itself fatal, but xenopolycythemia would be an alien variation of the disease. Follow-up question though.
Okay.
In this side of paradise, they all beam down to that planet and are all healed of their previous wounds and diseases and how do you do skis. How does he develop this xenopolycythemia?
There was a dirty Orion slave girl that I met.
Yeah, the transporter's tricky because, like, it supposedly the buffers on the transporter will actually go through your molecular structure and remove any illness, disease, anything like that. So how do you have disease in Star Trek? So, but stuff can slip through the buffer.
We're just asking questions.
Clearly, the original series transporter didn't do that. Clearly,
yeah.
So
maybe McCoy has reason to not trust the transporters.
I don't like them. I'm on record.
It's killing him.
Or the transporters don't detect everything, right? So it might take that xenos blah 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 and say that it's part of his genetic structure and beam him up with more of it.
Xenos blah blah blah.
Yeah. I had some of those at a restaurant last week.
That's okay because this ship will fix everything. Don't you even worry. And this is McCoy's big day out, honestly, because he meets a lady and the lady is like, you should stay. And honestly, he does what I would do. If I only had a year to live and I beamed onto this asteroid that was a ship traveling to a planet and this lady wanted to be with me, I'd be like, you know what? Yeah. Bye, Starfleet. Bye-bye. I've done my time.
But clearly, though, she has poor eyesight if she's picking McCoy. But
this Kirk's line. Personally, I find the lady's taste questionable, but she obviously prefers you, and you obviously don't seem to mind. Kirk, sir.
The alien fashion in this episode is off the charts.
It's in these patterns, these bright patterns on this asteroid. Where are they getting these ideas from?
Well, it's like the costumers went down to, there was a place in Southern California in the 60s and 70s called Shag Rug Law.
Oh yes.
And Shag Rug Law was literally everything these guys were wearing. You know, it was just like if they'd gone to Carpinteria, the other part of the Sepulveda Highway, they would have found perhaps something a little more tasteful. But man,
didn't we have a shag rug log here in West Valley somewhere? I think we had a location.
Oh yeah, it was national.
Yeah, it might even still
disaster.
be there.
If it was modern day, they would go to Mood in New York, and then Tim Gunn would go, "Thank you, Mood."
So they beam down to the inside of this asteroid. Or no,
They beam down onto the surface,
and then they go down.
Can't detect. They don't detect any life forms. But then the pillar elevators open up, and everyone in their fancy outfits comes rushing out.
But it's a secret that the outside is the outside, because as I recall, like all the people inside, and that's where we get the title from, all the people inside the asteroid had no idea about the surface.
Correct, and there was one older gentleman who knew, and he's the one who talks to the crew and says, "No, things are not as they seem. For this world is hollow, and I have touched the sky again."
And then he died.
Incredible title, and then he died.
He dies because of his device that was in him.
Because you know what? I love it. I love an episode where a computer is in charge.
Yep.
Because what could go wrong?
What could go wrong? This AI running this ship towards a planet filled with billions of people.
Exactly.
I just love, though, that the whole thing that McCoy is told is, well, you should spend the next year with me. You're going to have to get one of these mind-altering devices that could kill you in a heartbeat if the machine decides otherwise. But on the other hand, hot priestess.
Worth it. Worth the risk.
Exactly.
And if there's one thing we've learned about McCoy, he is ready for death at any moment. He is so happily, arms open, waiting for death to take him. And why not? He's open for anything.
So he joins the cult. I mean, he drinks the Kool-Aid and joins the cult and says, "I'm just going to stay here." And then of course, Kirk and Spock have to meddle with the Oracle and the Society's way of life, and
Kirk doesn't want to lose his other best friend.
Yeah, selfish.
Plus, he can't believe that she chose McCoy. So
I think that was the motivator. It's like, oh, you didn't pick me. Well, I'll shoot you. I'll destroy your god. How about that?
You don't want any of this Kirk action? Fine, I'll ruin your whole life.
Yeah, your society, nice one. Shame if something happened to it.
Would be a shame if Starfleet happened to interfere.
So yeah, the Oracle, they destroy the Oracle, and that's when Spock magically somehow finds out, oh, there's a bunch of files in this Oracle room, in the back room. And, you know, it's this race of people who have all these, they know how to fix stuff. Dr. McCoy, I think you're going to be fine. And then suddenly, I love her. I was willing to change my life for her, but, you know, gotta go.
Now that I'm better?
Now that I'm healed and everything, I'll see you in a year. How about that?
Yeah, I'll come back and visit.
This was supposedly getting revisited in Star Trek Phase 1. It's worthy of.
I was going to say that it needs to be revisited because, I mean, if McCoy and she were that much crazy about each other, we need to revisit that.
Yeah, I do miss the 60s where you could just fall in love right away.
Instantly.
I also think they need to put the cutscene back in where she's deciding between Kirk and McCoy, and Kirk invites her over to the pool.
Is that a reel?
No, that's a joke for cruel people. Thank you, Lee.
Oh, because he killed that woman.
Who?
Didn't somebody drown in his pool?
Yeah. Yes. Oh, he didn't kill her.
No, she was just found that way while he was out horseback riding.
That's it.
Oh, wasn't it his wife? Wasn't it his ex-wife?
Yeah.
I was just saying. Kirk invites you to the pool. Pass.
Okay, since we're going here.
There's a thing that I had read that that people believe all of the characters and all the actors of the original series would get along just great, except Kirk and Shatner, and Kirk would kick the shit out of Shatner.
Yeah, I think Kirk would not put up with Shatner at all. Okay, since we're in the pool, all right. One of the things that we'll be bringing you here on our Patreon is Jeff and I hosted a show in 2009 hosting Star Trek reruns on a local TV channel. And we would come in between the commercials and do little sketches and talk about the episode and things like that. We did one where it was he and I doing it was like dueling Shatners is what we called it, where we would face each other and Shatner
was so bad.
Yeah, one would look at the camera, do a Shatner line, and turn away, and then the other person would look into the camera, do a Shatner line, and then turn away. So we'd go back and forth with Shatner lines. And the last one was me looking at the camera going, my pool. It'll never be clean again. And that's when we had the camera guy yell at me going, oh, too far, too far.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I thought it was okay. Are we going to leave that in?
It's sad. I can't pass up a Shatner pool joke. I should learn. She was probably.
We all should learn. But
Yep.
anyway. All right. Yeah.
Wow, I can't wait to see those.
Yeah, we'll bring those. Again, I wasn't proud of who I was in 2009. All right. 2002? 2002. Yeah, 2002.
Only 2002, huh?
Yeah, all right.
Well, the next episode we will discuss is it Tholian or Tholian?
Tholian.
Tholian? With Captain Kirk. With Captain Kirk and the derelict USS Defiant apparently lost, the Enterprise grapples with an insanity-causing plague and an attack by the Tholians. Another episode where people just going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but this episode actually leads to the coolest episode of Star Trek Enterprise.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They do. It is a callback.
And it's so great because it's a callback, but it's not the Prime Universe Enterprise that finds them. It's the Mirror Universe Enterprise that finds them, and they find that Defiant, and things go bad. I love it.
Yeah.
What?
Oh yeah, we won't spoil it for you. You'll have to wait and watch the episode.
It's the good stuff.
This episode was nominated for an Emmy for special effects.
Well,
they were
68. I get it.
but again, you're watching the remastered with the new effects.
Yeah, I want to watch the old ones.
Get a Blu-ray player or a DVD
I
player.
have a PS5.
That would work. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll loan them to you.
Yes.
I'll bring them to Saturday matinee and let you.
Perfect.
All right.
Perfect.
Yeah. Now, what's cool about this one is that we get a non-humanoid alien, the Tholians, who in that Star Trek Year 5 comic book I was telling you about, they have a Tholian that they build a suit for him, and he's able to be a member of the crew. They have
cool?
They have like spidery legs, and but they're it's temperature, isn't it, Lee? The Tholians, they're like incredibly hot, and
they burn
so,
really, really hot. So like a human couldn't exist on their ships, and they would freeze to death on
What
a
about
human ship.
What about a Vulcan?
No. I think even too hot for Vulcans.
Oh,
yeah, we're talking like lava. That's what the spacesuit that they built for him was. This Tholian character.
Their ship floor is literally lava.
So the container that they build for it is like a Yeti branded.
Yeah,
the brand
Sure.
Yeti.
Yeah, and they
Sure.
just have to rotate the hot chocolate out for them every couple of hours.
So it was the Defiant was the other starship, right?
Yes.
And it's damaged. The Enterprise happens upon it, and it's somehow phasing between universes,
And everyone's dead.
and everyone's dead. And
they look like they killed each other.
so they put on their spacesuits.
Carrie, I was praying that you had this toy.
Now this is the original series spacesuit, but you'll notice here this is Chekhov in the spacesuit. I had the Kirk one, but I sold it. I didn't sell this one because, as you can see, Walter Koenig autographed it to me.
Carrie.
So that's why I didn't sell it. But this is the Barbie size Star Trek figure with the spacesuit.
It looks like it says to Carrie, but it actually says, "Make sure to eat your Ovaltine. Love, Walter."
Oh my goodness!
Literally, I have a note in my episode notes of, boy, I hope Carrie has this toy. And I'm so glad that you do.
Now, so the the Defiant eventually phases out and disappears.
Into another universe.
Goes away somewhere with Kirk on it, right?
Because the transporters are all messed up, and so Scotty can only beam back 3 people and not 4, and so somebody has to wait. And Kirk, ever so valiant, offers to stay and wait.
Why didn't they just leave the horny kid?
Well, because he was the first. Because Chekhov is the first to start going crazy. And poor Chekhov, he's always the first to like start experiencing whatever is happening to the greater populace.
He
And
doesn't have the conditioning, the mental acuity to deal with that kind of brainwashing.
it's because he thinks with his dick too much. So he's like more susceptible to to this kind of thing.
So the Tholians then say to the Enterprise, "Get the fuck out of here." And Spock has figured out the phasing time and says, "Give us an hour and 53 minutes. And then if we can't retrieve our captain, then, when the ship comes back, then we'll go." And so he did all the calculations. And McCoy was being really mean to Spock in this episode.
McCoy was so mean to him.
Exactly.
I have in my notes, "Don't be such a C-word, McCoy," because my two uncles were fighting and McCoy was being, as he usually is to Spock, but he was being so mean. Well, especially too after, because McCoy is like, "Hey," because they sit the whole crew down in a room and they're like, hey, big guy, have some bad news. Mm-hmm. And Spock essentially tells the crew that Admiral acting captain now, Kirk is...
He's probably dead.
And he has this line, "But as a result of the battle, we must accept the fact that Captain Kirk is no longer alive. I shall not attempt to voice the quality of respect and admiration which Captain Kirk commanded. Each of you must evaluate the loss in the privacy of your own thoughts." Damn.
He was doing his best to comfort you. He
trying his best.
He was trying.
Telling you to keep it inside and shove it down.
But that's where Strange New Worlds does such an amazing job with Spock, because they're giving us why he's the way he is in the original series. They're explaining it so beautifully well.
Yep.
And that his big cool engage line is, "I would like the ship to go now, please." It's so perfect.
So after an hour 53, the Tholians say, "Get the fuck out of here." And there's a fight, and that's when the Tholians decide to build this giant net around the Enterprise.
The Tholian Web, one might call it.
Because the Enterprise is damaged and can't move. And
how amazing that they just happen to have an incredible device for a ship that's damaged and cannot move. Because like if the Enterprise, if somebody just got out and pushed,
that's true,
wouldn't have been effective.
Yeah,
exactly. Mm-hmm. But then you get my favorite part: Shatner in the spacesuit, floating and appearing and phasing here and there, including in Uhura's quarters while she's in her jammies.
That I find believable. Every other scene that he showed up in, no. If the whole episode had just been him showing up in random yeoman's quarters, very believable for Kirk.
But it's him, trying to yell at people and mouthing very slow so you can read his lips.
I also, another like just super believable thing about that is, he appears in Uhura's quarters, right? Uhura's like, "Ruh-roh, I'm seeing this guy," and McCoy's like, "Okay, dear, you're also going crazy." But then Scotty sees him and is like, "Oh, I'll believe a man." And
especially one that orders whiskey by the half gallon.
Half gallon of whiskey.
Yeah,
although to be fair, I don't think that it's not that McCoy didn't believe a woman. It's the occurrence of a second incident in which McCoy goes, "Okay, maybe there is something to this." But as a woman, I just gotta default to, "Oh, really?"
Space sexism.
Sexism.
But then they figure it out. They get the captain back, and then they figure out how to phase out of the web, because the web was pretty much complete. There was no way to get out. But then they figure out how to phase out of the web, because they're smart science people.
And that's those old scientists. What was the Tholians' plan once their web was complete?
Well, we'll never know. I don't know.
I mean,
also, how many of those like post-mortem videos do you think Kirk recorded? Like, is that his first take?
Geez.
Or
yeah, he probably every season would record a different one.
Ends it with "I love you 3000" each time.
Exactly. I thought that was kind of cool, though, that they did that.
I did too. I did
you know,
too. I really like because also it got our two uncles to stop fighting.
Yeah. There's Jim's last orders. You gotta come in here. I'm busy, doctor. Well, it's Jim's last orders. You gotta. All right, I'll be there. So he goes in. They watch the tape, and it's like, okay, I've been a dick. Oh, I've been a dick. Yeah.
And
Nice
this is
to see
also the only time that Spock refers to Dr. McCoy by his nickname, Bones.
Oh, that's right.
What a human slip-up, Spock. Don't ever do it again.
Exactly.
Just kidding.
That'll learn you.
Just kidding. Let's move on to our last episode that we're going to talk about today, Plato's Stepchildren. A cornerstone episode, probably in the Star Trek-averse, but for silly reasons. After Dr. McCoy helps the leader of a planet populated by people with powerful psionic abilities, they decide to force him to stay by torturing his comrades until he submits. This one was silly. This one was so silly.
It was this advanced race that never needed a doctor until today because of a dirty Orion woman or something. I don't recall what it was.
The man got a cut on his leg, and as they have evolved to a point where they live for a very, very long time, but they have sacrificed like their immune systems for this, and so one little cut on the leg leads to a real big infection, which I wish they could have shown us. Instead, we just get to
take our word for it.
It's all in the imagination.
So it's like we gotta have your doctor. Sorry about that. And we're assholes, by the way. Just want to let you know.
They're huge assholes. We're introduced to the character Alexander, a dwarf amongst these people, and I love him so much. I was like, I will die for him. Please protect him. He is the nicest man. Just why are they being so mean to him?
He's a good actor, and he was on a lot of shows in the 60s and 70s.
I was immediately blown away by him. I thought he was so cool.
That's right. He's one of the bad guys in Wild Wild West. That's right. Dr. something or other.
Wait, the movie?
No, the TV series.
Damn.
The TV series was literally the birth of steampunk as a genre. Yeah, everybody says it's Jules Verne, but this is the first time we saw it, and it was really good sci-fi. Like very much like Star Trek.
It was fun. Yeah, Wild Wild West was fun because you had, it was what was it, the CIA or some secret government agency, and they had all this, and it was in the West, but it was they had all this technology that wasn't out yet.
Yeah, his sidekick, I can't. Artemis Gordon. Was always creating like these really cool. Sorry, my camera keeps shutting out. But he's always creating these really neat gadgets and stuff that would get him out of things. It was ahead of James Bond's gadgetry. So,
exactly, and they had a train that had like secret compartments and special labs and stuff in it. And they would travel from town to town on the train and solve crimes and mysteries, and it was.
Yeah, I loved the Will Smith movie.
No.
But this guy that played Alexander was one of the big bads.
Yeah, he was a regular villain on that show.
Yeah, I loved it's so crazy. He had such a presence. Like the first time he steps on screen, I was like, I would die for him. And and then you see everyone be so mean to him and treat him like a plaything. It's just like he says, I'm their buffoon. I'm like, you deserve the world, Alexander.
But it's these guys who are assholes who have mind powers and can make you do things like pretend to be a horsey, which I thought Shatner did wonderfully.
That was rough. And then, Spock does a little dance around Shatner and like steps on him, and everybody's like, ooh, step on him, daddy. And
there's a scene where Shatner's on the floor writhing where I think he was like 2 seconds away from creating breakdancing. Like if he had just gone up on his shoulders, he would have been right there.
That's true.
He was some amazing shacting in this episode. Yes. They were really letting him just do whatever.
Yeah, you could tell it was all right. Shatner's gonna shat, so let him do it.
Oh, you want the full cage?
Exactly. But they apparently these aliens are from the ancient Greek times. They hung out with Plato.
Yeah.
And they were heavily influenced by him.
Yeah, and these are like the descendants of those people and
Yeah.
who'sy whatsies, but they're all mean and they just make people do things for their whims using their telekinesis powers.
And
And
now
then
kiss.
and they are like, well, you guys can go, but we're gonna keep McCoy because he's a doctor. And
Yeah.
again, Kirk is like, not my McCoy.
Not my boyfriend. Nope.
After we went through to get him from that hot high priestess lady.
Exactly. We
And
nearly
so
lost
they're-
him a week ago. Yeah.
And so Kirk and Spock are doing a little dance, and the guy looks at McCoy and he's like, how can you let this go on? And I'm like, sir, oh my God.
But now there's a couple of really great parts of this show and of this episode. And one is where Kirk explains to Alexander about the Federation and about, he says, well, where we come from, it doesn't matter. Your size, your color, or whatever, everybody's the same.
I cry.
And you could just see Alexander just going, I don't believe this. This is the greatest. This must be paradise to live where you live, So that was a great moment, I thought. And also between two actors, that was also a great moment. Some good dialogue. It really, once again, cements why, the Federation is such a great thing to be a part of. And then, of course, you get which I found out just recently, this was not the first interracial kiss on television.
Really?
No, there was an interracial kiss on like the BBC or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, and even in American television, this was not the first interracial kiss.
Interesting.
If you go to Wikipedia, it's all there. But I'm happy with Star Trek taking credit for it, though, because it was pretty bold.
Yeah, here's
Yeah.
a few bits of trivia regarding that interracial kiss. Network executives ordered director David Alexander to shoot a take where Kirk and Uhura did not kiss, just so it would be available. However, William Shatner crossed his eyes at the camera, making the take useless. Nichelle Nichols said that this was her favorite episode, due to Uhura's being allowed to do something plot crucial as opposed to her usual role as a glorified receptionist. And she has said that the Star Trek production offices received more mail on this episode than any other episode in the history of the series, and surprisingly, none of it was negative.
Yeah.
I think, there was like one negative letter that went to an affiliate somewhere. They didn't show it in the South, from what I understand.
Yeah, it's always the South, right? It was the same with that episode of DS9 that is purportedly the first same-sex kiss.
Yeah.
And they lost so many affiliates in the South because it was like, oh no, we don't want to see no gays. And I mean, like, that is the safest episode of DS9 using Jadzia.
Oh, it's so good,
Right.
though.
Yeah,
It's
but-
such a good episode.
Great allegory for transness. So
Exactly. Well, yeah, the Trill are. They're
Yeah.
terrific.
Yeah.
And that's why Jadzia is such a great character as well.
there we go, back to DS9. I'm so
Sorry.
Rebecca.
That's
Sorry.
okay.
Anyway, so then they figure out, it's in their blood. Of course, McCoy's got it figured out. It's in their blood. They have this chemical, this vitamin or whatever it is. And if we get some, then we'll be able to do that too. Oh, okay. Give me twice the dosage, Kirk says right there, McCoy.
I can take it.
And they offer it to Alexander, and he's like, no, I don't want that power. That power makes you into an asshole. So clearly I don't want it. And which I thought was also a great writing and acting choice, both there. Terrific the way that he portrayed it and the way it was written. Great. Just absolutely
Good
great.
stuff.
Yeah. Nimoy got to be musical. He created the song that he sings there towards the
Did he?
end. Yes. And I love when Leonard Nimoy gets to be musical. I think he's so good at it.
He wrote Bitter Dregs. That was him.
Let me find
Okay.
the piece of trivia because
All right.
he
Because I was like,
wrote something.
I was like, of all the songs to sing, are you singing one that, well, A, makes no sense, and B,
Oh, I'm so happy for you, Rebecca, now that I know this about you, because we're just 10 short episodes away from the ultimate Leonard Nimoy musical
Oh
episode.
no. The Maiden Wine song,
Yes.
whichever one that is.
That's that one, I
Is that
think.
that one? Yeah. Well, he did it. So
Yeah, maidens, bring your wine, and but the last lines are where he repeats bitter dregs. Now, when did he record his music album? Was it during the show?
The Bilbo Baggins one, I think, was in the 70s.
Yeah, probably in the later,
Yeah.
probably after the show. But he recorded a music album. He's not a good singer, but he did have a hit. It was a hit. Leonard Nimoy doing the what is it called? The Story of Bilbo Baggins, or the
Yep.
theme?
Ballad of Bilbo Baggins.
That's it.
so many albums.
Yes.
Yeah.
More than I would have expected.
Oh, see, this is
the
this
Bilbo
is-
Baggins thing was 67.
Now, this was back in the day when it wasn't the actor who would go to their agent and say, I think I need to make a record. It was the record company going, hey, you seem popular.
Right.
You ever thought about doing a record?
Right.
So his studio albums. We've got Leonard Nimoy presents Mr. Spock's Music from Outer Space, 1967.
Just terrible.
Two Sides of Leonard Nimoy, 1968. The Way I Feel, 1968. A Touch of Leonard Nimoy, 1969. The New World of Leonard Nimoy, 1970. But then he's got a grip of spoken word albums,
Yeah.
which I've got to track down immediately. The
Spoken
Martian
word-
Chronicles,
Spoken
Illustrated
Word
Man,
was
War of the Worlds.
All of this stuff. Yeah.
Oh, him reading Martian Chronicles? Really?
Yeah, we've got
might-
to do it.
It might finally make sense to me if he were to read it to me.
What was his series that was on in the late 70s? Was it In Search of?
In Search of, yes.
Oh my gosh, that was some good stuff. In Search of Invisible People.
Yeah, he would show up at it was like Rescue 911 with Shatner. He would show up at the beginning and the end and bookend but he would narrate, and it would be invisible people. There are many different occurrences.
Of UFOs, in search of psychic
Bigfoot.
grandmas. Yeah.
He has 3 best of compilations. One from 1993 called Highly Illogical. One from 1995 called Leonard Nimoy Presents Mr. Spock's Music from Outer Space. And then 1997 Spaced Out, the very best of Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner.
Yeah, Shatner's Rocket Man is divinity.
Yes.
10 episodes, Rebecca. Episode 20, you're going to see Spock sing in a way that...
What's the name of the episode?
Well, let's just say there's some hippies in it.
Is it The Way to Eden?
Oh, yes.
Yes, the space hippies.
Oh, my God. It is the most delicious trash you will ever set eyes on.
Oh, it's so bad.
Yeah. And, yeah, I believe Nichelle Nichols also sings a song in this,
she does.
too. Yeah, she sings a song about Mr. Spock, and then Spock later sings a song about, well, space hippies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's of all the people that should have gotten record contracts, it should have been Nichelle Nichols, but
Yeah, beautiful voice. She's a
but
beautiful
instead
voice.
instead we get Nimoy singing about Bilbo Baggins. Yeah.
Especially with the backup singers he has on that song. Yeah.
Now, I don't know how to phrase this question. Is that any good?
No, it's horrible.
No.
I mean, and I say this as a devout fan of his early recordings, and also some of the best arguments I've ever had with an octogenarian German woman, who was in love with Leonard Nimoy and had original photography of his that had been signed to her. She had his entire filmography and discography, and boy, when I told her that I thought the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins was one of the most gloriously horrible things I'd ever loved, she was very upset with me and wouldn't talk to me for a week. So,
Ooh.
she loved him. She liked to look at him. So.
Well, and was he a better photographer?
He was a good photographer. I've still got one of his pieces out in the garage.
Wasn't he an animal rescuer?
I think he was in animal rights, but he was also his photography subjects were large women, as I recall.
Oh my!
And still life. He did a lot of still life stuff too.
Yeah,
but he was an interesting cat, as they would say at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting cat. So.
Leonard Nimoy's Pet Pad, a store that opened in Canoga Park, California in 1969. It apparently only stayed in business for a year or two.
Yeah.
He had a pet store.
Canoga Park. That's wild.
Wow. I had no idea.
I think it's a neighborhood my mom used to go to score weed in.
Oh man.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we have some very exciting episodes coming up down the
Oh,
pipeline.
Oh wow, yeah. You have no idea what lies ahead.
I did all of this just because I want to see your reaction to Turnabout Intruder, but I forgot The Way to Eden is season 3 as well.
Hmm.
So, oh man, I'm so happy to be here with you.
I know, but she keeps surprising me though. Just when I think
That
she's
I
gonna
just
hate
keep
it,
loving every episode.
yeah, I'll watch an episode and I'll go, "Oh boy, Rebecca's gonna hate this," and then she comes in and goes, "I love this episode."
I don't think they're bad. You got the Empath coming up. I think that's an amazing episode. You've got episode 15. That's the one with Frank Gorshin with the black and white makeup.
I just finished that one last night. Yeah.
Yeah, like that is like one of the decisive episodes of Star Trek. Yeah, there's some good stuff still coming up, but The Way to Eden, oh yeah. And actually, I've never even seen The Cloudminders.
Really?
Yeah, never seen it.
Oh
Okay, well, watch
catch
it
up, buddy.
Watch
Yep.
it and join us.
Very few episodes I've never seen, but that's one.
Wow, that surprises me that there is an episode that you've not seen. Wow. Okay.
I mean, yeah, I won a trivia contest with trivia from this episode, but I've never seen it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, but that
All
was
right,
90s.
well,
Lee. My brain was
watch
different
it.
then.
And then come back, have a conversation with us,
Mhm.
and tune in next time, everybody. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week on the Great Ship, the Space Show, and we'll keep going where no man has gone before, but a lot of people have gone before. Thanks, everybody.